Next level insight.
Oh my god, it's like a fat pig.
So what are you seeing compared to the last run?
175, but it's just super big ridge. My best run was almost 186. I'm hoping to, we'll see if we can hit 200. Ooh. That would be awesome. This dyno's kind of a heartbreaker dyno. So my S2000 bone stock did 200. So if I could make as much car as my S2000.
And 100 says they make
240, yeah. The dotted blue line is my baseline, the way I street tuned it. And at 2500 at wide open throttle, it's like 14.7 air fuel ratio. And by 36, 37, it dips to 9.5.
Okay.
Very super rich.
This sounds similar to what I'm experiencing over here.
It's such a huge range.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to decrease that amplitude.
Right.
The difference between the spread between the highest and lowest air fuel ratio. So I want to see if downsizing the air jet is going to allow that mixture to compress because I'm letting less air in, and then drop down the main jet so I bump my mixture back up to where it needs to be to be happy. So I'm going to try smaller mains. Power.
So this is the orange car from 3 years ago?
Yes, the date exactly was March 21st, 2014, so
okay.
2.5 years ago.
Okay.
So power, torque, orange car, green car. So orange car peaked at about 104.
Oh wow.
And so far this one's at 186.
Holy crap.
So it's a staggering difference. It really kind of opens my eyes to how much of a difference it makes when you work these motors over, when you port the head and put some carbs, big carbs on it.
Yeah, well you got some extensive head work done on this thing, right? Was it through Rebello?
It was through Rebello.
Okay.
It's not super extensive. It's not like a race port. He called it a street port. So he cleaned up, mostly it was on the exhaust port that needed the most cleanup. The intake port got a little bit of cleanup. The exhaust port he worked quite a bit actually. He blended the valve seats into the port, and he also port matched the intake manifold and pinned it to the head. So when I looked through the intake into the port, you couldn't even tell the difference where the intakes stopped and where the head started.
I saw those pictures. That was really awesome.
Yeah. But I really didn't know what to expect, and when I baselined this thing this morning, when I saw 186, I was honestly, when I first built this motor, I was hoping to get 175. But when I first built it, I also didn't have a ported head and matched manifold. But if I can get it to 200, I'd be super stoked.
That's awesome.
This inner link didn't allow this rod to go all the way down.
Right.
It would this part would hit the rod.
Gotcha.
So I carved away a piece of that link, and it still didn't help. And then one night I'm like, I'm an idiot. Why didn't I just bend these rods just a little bit?
Nice.
I took just a little bit of a bend, so that when you're full throttle, it clears that connection. Didn't make much more power, or didn't make any more power, but the mixer looks a lot better. I'll probably just do a second pull just to have a back-to-back comparison to make sure it's all good. And then I might be as good as I can get it with the Weber jetting. Keith is working on some new stuff, so I'll probably get together with him and dyno it when he's got some more prototype tubes ready. So I'll probably do another pull and then advance the timing, see if it likes it, and then pop the new distributor in. So it looks like those air filters take about, what, 5 horsepower?
Wow.
You know? Kind of all the way across the torque band too.
Wow.
I'd be interested to compare those filters with like with little K&N pods or something to see what's least restrictive.
There he is, driving his old car again.
Feels good.
I'm glad he didn't say, you f***ed it up.
No,
what have
it's
you
so
done?
crisp. I really like the exhaust. It's like throaty but not loud.
There's still a bit of a drone on the freeway. If you're going long distances, earplugs are nice.
That's what I used to have to do beyond a 15-minute drive in this thing. Oh yeah, okay.
I haven't had many Z's that didn't have a bad second gear sync.
Right. Yeah, it's not overpowering, but it's a good amount of power for the car, and it's just really smooth power delivery. It's just about throttle response, just kind of carving the corners, keeping the revs up. It'll kind of beat you up on big potholes because it's got lowering springs and there's not much bump travel. But if it's relatively smooth road, it's, yeah, you should drive mine once we get it off the dyno, just to get a feel for
what 195 horsepower feels like.
Well, it feels way different. Not just the motor. Okay. The motor, you notice immediately that it's got more to give.
Right.
But it's funny. It just feels different. Each car is built just slightly differently enough to catch things here and there, like, oh, the transmission's a little harder to put in gear, or the steering kicks back a little bit differently because there's more camber on the front tires. Just all these things that I noticed now that I've driven the green car quite a bit, and now getting back in this car. This car feels like more dialed in.
Do you remember the steering wheel squeak?
Yeah.
It's in the column, I believe.
It was always like that.
Yeah.
And
I got the creaky clutch pedal. It's stuff you never notice until you're recording video.
Just rod bending a bunch.
Yeah, why?
Such a flimsy.
Yeah.
So new manifold and new throttle linkage looks like it's in the future here.
Yeah. There's a real nice one, Parada, which is like a copy of. It's like a descendant of the Nissan Comp manifold.
Okay.
It's the same as the Camry one, but like $200 cheaper. Sweet.
Nice.
Make sure these are nice and tight.
Yeah, it feels like it's returning to a good baseline idle there, not too high.
I ended up finding this rusted out 240Z 71 in Cupertino, advertised for $800. And it was sitting in his driveway. He hadn't driven it for like 4 months because it stopped running for some reason. So it was covered in spider webs and had like flat tires.
Right.
I checked it out and was like super excited. I'm pretty conservative and don't like jump on things right away. I have to like sleep on it. So I offered the guy $200 as nicely as I could.
Right.
And he came back with $400, and I had $200 in my head. So I said, sorry, I can't do 400.
Right.
It's just, you know, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, and she says, it's just $400. Can't really go wrong. And at the time, it's a lot of money for, you know, a broke college student.
Right.
She said, like, come on, go pick it up. It's just $400. And because of her,
Yeah.
I ended up getting my first 240Z.
That's awesome.
So I would say she's a keeper.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, if it wasn't for her, I have no idea what I would be driving.
It's like they say, behind every great man, there's a great woman, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.